to act out some of those things. And my suggestion to you is just find somebody that you can talk honestly. You know from going to therapy, I'm paying all this money, why beat around the bush? What's the point? I mean, this person is not judging me. I want to pour my heart and soul out on the table because that's what the purpose is. Why beat around the bush? That's what I would say and encourage you with this energy. As well, with Mars being really with Venus being in 10 degrees, Saturn being at 17 and a half, it's kind of in aspect. I mean, it's just a couple of degrees away from aspect. Not fully in aspect, but it's very close. So, to have these planets in the 12th house and then have Venus in a relationship to Saturn. Saturn's the father. Saturn is a karmic indicator. Wherever Saturn is by house and by sign is telling me that there's some karmic issues related to that house and related to that sign. Saturn is in the 7th house, which tells me, okay, you've got some karmic issues about relationship in this house, in this life. Saturn's in the 7th house, and then Mars and Venus, the two sexual indicators, are in the 12th house of karma. So I'm imagining as you progress in life that, these karmic issues will surface, things that you're working on in this life. Okay? And then really Venus is in a relationship with Saturn. Anytime any planets are in a relationship with Saturn, again, it's indicating there's some karma related to those planets, especially depending on what the aspect is. So it is possible. Go ahead.
So what is Saturn and what does it mean as a
okay. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. Capricorn is the ruler of the 10th house. So Saturn is the father. Saturn is the one who has authority, the one who has the power. Now, I would imagine there probably were some issues with the father, because even though Venus is not fully in an opposition, it's just a couple of degrees out of a true opposition to Saturn, it's close enough.
It doesn't mean father, it means just authority figure.
The authority figure. Okay. It could mean the father, it could mean authority figures. One way of saying it is that men want to control the feminine of you. The men will oppose you. You might be in your power, and the men don't like it. Because when Saturn is opposing Venus, it's like the masculine and the feminine are like this. Okay? It could be the father. Saturn is definitely authority figures. So it's the teacher, it's the president, it's the owner of the business, it's the mayor of town, it's the one who has the power. Okay? Now, with Saturn in a relationship with Venus, there's again another indicator of sexual karma, because Saturn is karma. Saturn teaches us lessons. It's the karmic indicator. So wherever it's at and wherever it's transiting, it's teaching us lessons related to that house and related to that sign. Just I'm going to pop up here for a moment. Transiting Saturn is going through the 8th house. Well, the 8th house is Scorpio. Saturn spending 2.5 years going through the 8th house of Scorpio. You're definitely learning lessons about relationships. You're definitely learning lessons about how to share power, because Pluto and Scorpio are power. My power in the world. So if Saturn is transiting the 8th house, you're learning lessons about sexuality, relationships, how I'm in my power, how I share resources. It's a very important time in your life when Saturn is going through the 8th house. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, even though we need to get back to this. Saturn is on its way to the midheaven. In 3 to 3.5 years, Saturn is going to be at the midheaven, which means you're at the pinnacle of career.
All right.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. When Saturn goes to the 7th house we know is relationships. You're learning issues about relationships. So what? That was like 3.5 years ago, Saturn... Oh, I know when it was. It's 5, 10. In the spring of 2000, Saturn went into the 7th house. March. It crossed the descendants. So something big probably happened in March, April of 2000. And then for those, see, this house is a little bit smaller. So for those 2 years, because Saturn usually takes 2.5 years to go through each house. This house is a little bit smaller, so probably for 2 years. 2000 through 2002, Saturn was teaching you lessons about relationships. And then, sometime in 2002, Saturn went into the 8th house of Scorpio, meaning learning lessons about power, where you abuse power, where you share power, where you don't share power. The 8th house is still relationship because it's Scorpio. And it's sexuality, sexual intensity, because that's what Scorpio is. Scorpio rules sexual intensity. So Saturn is going through the 8th house now. It's going to be there probably for another year. And then Saturn's going to go into the 9th house. The whole idea is Saturn going through the 7th and the 8th house. When Saturn gets to the 10th house, you want to be clean. Meaning, Saturn's teaching you lessons about relationship, and Saturn's teaching you lessons about being in your power. When Saturn comes to the 10th house, you move into a 5-year period of being in the pinnacle of career. That's where I'm at right now. Saturn's just moved into my 11th house, and no kidding. In May of 2000, when Saturn hit my midheaven, career exploded. It exploded, and I could not handle all the work that was being handed to me. Okay? So the classic case of somebody falling from power, not learning the lessons, was Richard Nixon. When Watergate happened, Saturn was at his midheaven. So when Saturn's going through the 7th, you want to learn your lessons about relationships. And when Saturn's going through the 8th, you want to learn your lessons about power. How you are with your power, how you share power, how you are in sexual relationships, do you bring it into work, yada, yada, yada. So that when Saturn gets up here, you're clean. You've learned your lessons, and the shit's not going to kick you in the ass when you get up here.
And that's when? That's 2000
okay. Saturn is just getting ready to go into Cancer, so it's going to be in Cancer for 2.5 years. And then 10 degrees of Leo, almost halfway through. So 2.5, and then another year, 3.5 years. So Saturn's going to come, so we're in 2003. It's going to be like late 2006 into 2007, you're going to hit the pinnacle of career. Not to worry. When Saturn goes into the 9th house is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is learning, traveling, growing, exploring. You've got time. When Saturn goes to the 9th house, it's the time for writing, time for publishing, because the 9th house is the house of publishing. It's the time for networking, meeting the people in your career, meeting the people in your business, really learning a lot, so that when Saturn comes to the 10th house, you've done the work, and you've done the networking, and you're in the pinnacle of career for 5 years.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
It's a very important thing. The other thing, I'm onto the transits. I will come back over to here. The transiting Jupiter, okay? Jupiter's in your first house by birth. Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the zodiac wheel, meaning it goes through each sign, 1 year through each sign. So your midheaven is 21 degrees Leo, and I think it's the middle of July. Jupiter is going to be at 21 degrees of Leo starting on July the 15th or the 16th. When it hits 20 degrees on the 11th of July, you're going to start feeling it. Remember, Jupiter is expansion, abundance, prosperity, opportunities, optimism, seeing the bright side of things. When Jupiter hits the midheaven, you're going to get a lot of offers, job offers, opportunities for work, starting in the middle of July. It's going to be in the 10th house for 1 year. So for the whole next year, from middle of July through July of 2004, you're going to have lots of opportunities for things, lots of things coming. In a way, Leigh, I think you did the right thing in stopping work, so that you pull out of what you've been doing, you start relaxing and chilling out, and you can start sussing out and considering all the different opportunities that are going to be offered to you. And watch, the middle of July, things are going to start coming and being offered to you. Remembering, it's not just career, it's maximum vertical light, which means the prana coming into the crown of the head. So it also has a very spiritual quality. So one thing that just flashed through my mind was, wow, what if she came to Esalen for that workshop for the 5-day in July? That would be exactly the kind of thing. It's like, oh my God, all of a sudden your world just starts opening up more and more. Oh, I see that I could do this, and I see that I could do this. It might be opportunities, or it might be the state of your mind opening up to what your opportunities are, what you would like to do. So I love when I find people with Saturn over here somewhere. And Jupiter too, because Jupiter's ready to pop at the midheaven. It's going to be at the very top of the chart, so that's fabulous. Okay. Oh, there's one other thing here I want to talk about. Down here, it looks like this. It's a horseshoe with 2 knobs on the bottom. We call that the north node of destiny. I wrote it in. The south node of past lives is over here. The south node of past lives by house and by sign tells me where we've been many, many, many times in past lives. In yoga, we call them the samskaras. In a sense, it's the same scar. I mean, it's interesting that the English kind of works out. The samskara means like it's a rut. I'm working this rut. It's this pattern. I've got a pattern, and I keep running the pattern and running the pattern. The samskaras are like the south node of past lives. It tells me where you've been many, 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 many times in past lives. Well, south node of past lives is in the 10th house in a 5-degree conjunction to the midheaven. Girlfriend, you've been the mayor. You've been the owner of the factory. You've owned the business. You've had hundreds of people working for you. Yada, yada, on and on and on and on. In this life, you naturally gravitate towards having a career, being productive, being the man. I would say, Saturn over here in the 7th house of relationship, these 2 guys over here in the 12th house, south node of past lives in the 10th house, it's like, okay, you were the owner of the factory, and you take the girls into the office, and these are, and not to say that that's necessarily true. What I do is I just list possibilities. I just throw things out. But to see that you have a lot of sexual karma in your being, and then to see that the south node of past lives is up here in the 10th house, you owned the business. You were the mayor. You were the one with power. Worldly power. Remember, Saturn rules the 10th house and Capricorn, and that's the father. So it's like the typical patriarchy where the man has the family, the man has the wife, but he's out fucking around. He can have mistresses, but he still gets to have his family and his wife. Just listing these things as potential possibilities. The other thing just to say is, you don't have to have a big career in this life, because the north node of destiny is in the 4th house of the mother, the 4th house of the home.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yes.
Or the other way to think of it is that you could be the mom and work out of the home. Because we know the career is very important in your being. It's a samskara. You know that one. So it doesn't mean that you're only the mom. You could be the mom, and maybe you're doing an interior design business out of the home. Or maybe you become a metaphysician and you see people in the home. You have an office in the home. So that's kind of another way to think of it. It's not like you just have to not do anything. But I would say you don't have to be the big career person. Which is interesting because there's a pressure with Saturn coming to the 10th house, like, oh my God, if I'm going into the pinnacle of career in 2006 and 7, well, I better get my shit together. Well, maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing something, there's no doubt about it, but it doesn't have to be the big career thing. It might be working out of the home and having babies, which would be lovely. Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing, interesting thing, your moon is at 8 degrees Aquarius, transiting Mars is at 17. So you had a lot of anger a couple weeks ago when Mars was at 8 degrees or 9 degrees. So here's Mars, 8 degrees. So on May 4th and 5th, the first Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, of May, Mars was conjunct the moon. The moon is the emotional nature,